everybody, I'm Bobby, and I'm so pumped to be hanging out with you today. You know, sometimes talking about the stuff that really matters in your life can be, well, a little awkward. But we think that church is the best place to have those important conversations, no matter how awkward they may be. And that's why today we're talking about sexual desires. Yes, you heard me. We're talking about sex and sexual desires at church. And yes, we know it's going to be awkward, and that's okay. We think you can handle it. And not just that, we think it's good for us to talk about it. Because whether we realize it or not, God cares about our sexual desires. He cares about what we do with them. And because it's important to Him, it's important to us. Some of you may be really interested in this conversation because you're curious about sexual things and have a lot of questions. And that's great. That's really normal and healthy. But maybe some of you feel embarrassed and awkward even thinking about talking about sexual stuff. I've been there before, and that's totally fine too. Some of you may even be wondering, why are we talking about sex at church? You might not even be interested in all that yet. And again, that's okay. All these feelings are normal and healthy. Now, no matter where you are right now, when it comes to thinking or not thinking about sexual things, this conversation is for you because God's perfect plan applies to each of us. We want to help you develop healthy thoughts and positive behaviors so that they can impact your life both today and in the future. Check this out. This is a true story about me. All right, so this is an old MP3 player, my old MP3 player that I had in middle school. Had it from 7th grade. Now, this isn't just an ordinary MP3 player. This can pack up to 1,000 songs. I know, it's a lot. But I was so obsessed with this. I valued this so much, I would carry it with me everywhere. From the dinner table, from right when I woke up, on the bus, even in class sometimes. I would always be listening to my MP3 player. Now you could argue that I was just really passionate, but honestly, I think I was borderline obsessed. I think we all probably have something we're totally passionate about. What is it for you? Maybe you're really into band or art or theater or football or church. Maybe you're really passionate about a cause or a relationship or a person in your life. But whatever it is, everybody knows you love it because you talk about it all the time. You think about it a lot. You give it a lot of your time and energy. After all, you're passionate about it. While there's nothing wrong about being passionate about things, problems can start when passions become obsessions. So how can we tell if what we're feeling is an obsession or a passion? Well, a passion is typically a love and excitement for something that doesn't cause us to ignore everything else in our lives. It usually makes the other parts of our lives better. So when you're passionate about soccer, you practice a lot and you work hard to be the best player on a team. When you're passionate about being a good friend, you spend more time with your friends and you think about how you can include and get to know others. When you're passionate about art, you paint or draw or sketch to get better at it. But when it's time to focus on your schoolwork, or you need to get enough sleep, or your mom asks you to take a break, you do it. You step away from what you're focusing on or you're passionate about with no problem. And obsession, on the other hand, has a tendency to take over our lives. It controls our thoughts and motivates our actions. It's what we think about all the time. It's the first thing you consider when you're making a decision about anything. And that's because it impacts all other areas in your life, usually not in good ways. When you're obsessed with video games, you stay up all night to play. You don't return texts or DMs from your friends when you're gaming. You flip out on your little brother if he tries to interrupt. And as a result, you start to suffer because you're not getting enough sleep or spending time with other people or focusing on other important things in your life. When you're obsessed with social media, you spend most of the day planning or posting to your profile. You zone out of in-person conversations with friends to focus on the likes you're getting behind the screen. And because of that, even though your social media is awesome, your real-life relationships aren't doing too well. Or maybe you're obsessed with the person you're dating. You talk about them all the time. You disobey your house rules because you want to talk to them later than what you're allowed to. And you only want to spend time with them. And as a result, other parts of your life aren't the same. You're breaking rules, hurting friends, isolating other people from what's going on in your relationship. That one relationship is controlling every decision you make. See what I mean? Obsessions have a way of controlling us. They motivate us to do things we wouldn't do otherwise. They can even cause us to put other relationships at risk for the sake of the obsession. We're willing to get in trouble, lose friends, make choices we might regret because we want to give all of our time and all of our energy to one thing, our obsession. So what does this have to do with our sexual desires? Well, remember when we use the word desire, we simply mean a strong feeling of wanting to have or do something. And when we talk about sexual desires, we're talking about sexual things we feel, think about, or want to do. And understanding this is so important because if we're not careful, our desires can become more than just desires. They can turn into more than just something we're interested in, or want, or curious about. They can become obsessions. They can control us and lead us into making decisions that aren't the best for us. See, in this age and phase in your life, things are changing a lot. Many of you are probably becoming interested in and curious about sexual stuff for the first time. And if you're not, that's okay too. I still think that this is important for us to talk about right now. Because whether it's questions about dating or about sexual desires, I want to help you navigate this with integrity. Sexual integrity is choosing to respond to the sexual things we feel, think, and desire in a way that respects ourselves, others, and God. It's responding in a way that's healthy, a way that doesn't control or confuse us, a way that doesn't allow an interest to become an obsession. So today, we're going to read something written a long time ago by a man named Paul. I think he had a lot of wisdom and guidance to share when it comes to interest, passion, and obsessions. See, Paul was one of the major writers in the Bible, and when he was alive, Paul spread the word about Jesus and what it meant to follow him. And part of the way he did this was writing letters to other Christians to encourage them and help them keep living God's best for their lives. Let's check out one of those letters. I am allowed to do all things, but not everything is good for me to do. Even if I'm free to do all things, I will not do them if I think it will be hard for me to stop when I know I should. See, I love this verse because it's so clear. Basically what Paul is saying is, yeah, I have the freedom to do anything I want, but all the stuff I want to do, it's not all good for me all the time. So even though I can do it, I'm not going to do it even if it's hard for me to give it up. Now, I don't know about you, but I definitely can relate to what Paul said here. I know exactly what it feels like to be so excited to have the freedom to do something I really want to do. But I also know I have to be careful to keep what I'm passionate about from becoming an obsession that controls me. An obsession I struggle to walk away from or stop doing. I think you probably get it too. Think about it. The older you get, the more opportunities you have. You get to choose some of the classes at school, you get to stay up later, you get to get a locker at school. You can eat caramel apples now that your braces are off. You have or might be getting a phone soon, or you might start dating. In other words, you're starting to have more freedom. But as Paul reminded us here, you have to be wise about how you use that freedom. I think this is especially important when we're talking about things like dating, sex, and sexual desires. In those areas of your life, you're getting more and more opportunities to learn about, think about, and even experience them as you grow and mature. Opportunities to date, opportunities to see PG-13 movies, opportunities to finally have that app or social media platform you've been dying to have, opportunities to read more mature books, opportunities to look up pictures online, opportunities to even start a physical relationship with someone else. Things like holding hands, kissing, sending inappropriate texts or pictures. These are things you might have the opportunity to do. But when it comes to all this stuff, I think we have to remember what Paul was getting at here. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. We might want to do something, but that doesn't mean we should. We might have the freedom to do it, but that doesn't mean it's the best thing for us. Now, when we become obsessed with something, the line gets blurry between what we can do and what we should do. And even if it's something good for us, that obsession can begin to control us. And all that freedom we're so excited about having, and all that freedom that God gives us to live our best lives and choose what's healthy and good for us, well, we're letting that freedom get away. We're letting that person or thing we've shifted our attention to control us. And that's not what I want for you. And it's certainly not the design God has for your life. Remember, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. It's not that God doesn't want you to be passionate about anything or attracted to anyone. In fact, it's the opposite. He wants you to have a great, big, amazing, full life. I know because Jesus said it himself while he was on earth. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. See, God wants you to have a full and exciting life. He wants us to be people who are full of passion and excited about the things we get to experience. And remember, he designed sexual desires and attraction to be part of living your best life. If you find someone attractive, who do you think made that person? And who do you think gave you the ability to appreciate that person? God did. If you appreciate the way someone talks or thinks, you're appreciating a creation of God. And you have the freedom to express that God-given attraction in a way that honors ourselves, others, and God. In other words, you can practice sexual integrity. So, what does that mean for you and me? I think we've got to get real about our obsessions. So, let's start by doing two things. First, recognize the obsession. How can we know when a passion has turned into an unhealthy obsession? Well, we can start by looking at what consumes and controls our time and thoughts. If it's taking us away from other important things or people, it probably has become an obsession. Texting the person you like no matter who you're with or what time it is, ignoring your friends to spend time with the person you're dating, or being furious with your parents for taking your phone away. Those are all signs that you're moving towards an unhealthy obsession. Start to recognize and name the obsession so you can make sure it doesn't consume you. Second, create boundaries. After you recognize your obsession, the next step is to find some balance in your life by creating boundaries. You can start by talking to a trusted adult, parent, guardian, or small group leader to help you create some limits for yourself. And then you can figure out the first step to take to begin changing your behavior. You might have to make some tough choices, like breaking up with someone, having your parents put controls on your phone, or limiting your screen time. But honestly, those things are worth it in the end. You'll be getting back the freedom to make healthier, wiser choices for yourself both today and in the future. Now, for some of you who are struggling with more difficult things, this step might feel totally awkward. And this is going to take a lot of courage. It might be hard for you to talk to someone about an obsession you have. Maybe you're embarrassed by your obsession or worried people will think it's strange. You might think that no one else struggles with what you're struggling with and no one will understand. But the person you talk to can handle it. They won't think you're weird or crazy or a bad person. They'll think you're brave for opening up and taking the first step on a path towards creating boundaries. See, God cares about what we do with our sexual desires, and He wants us to guard ourselves from letting our interests become obsessions. When it comes to sexual things, He wants us to remember that even if we can do something, that doesn't mean it's His best for us. Developing healthy thoughts and behaviors when it comes to this stuff is just one way we can not only honor God and ourselves, but also love and respect the people around us. And when we do this, not only will it help us have better, healthy relationships and make wiser choices today, it would also help us in the future relationships and experiences too. Now, I know this is difficult. I know that conversations like this can be downright awkward, but I also know that having them is worth it because they're helping us take even the smallest step towards God's best for all the areas in our lives, including things like sexual desires. Remember, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.